So, welcome to our book club, and this month, or this particular book, is Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. And with me is Bruce from IT Dev, who's been reading this book or listening to this book in his car over the last few weeks, and it's a big book. So, 48 laws. Bruce has sort of made a good start on it. So what we're going to be looking at the first sort of dozen or so chapters, and seeing what we glean out of this very interesting book. It's one that I felt was not your normal business book. I would think you probably agree with that, Bruce, that it's it's a little bit left field.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of lessons of life in here, and as you'll see, that it's it might be things in here that you probably wouldn't use yourself, but you've got to be aware that other people might be using these things against you. So it's always good to see what's going on with it. But so just a little bit about the author. There's a bit of information there. He's actually sold 1.2 million copies of this book. When I did read it, it is the most read book in the US prison system. So I'm not sure whether that's a great shout out for it. But there is apparently a film coming up, Never Outshine the Master, which I think was the first law that was in there. So so a very interesting sort of insight. And what I liked about it was the stories, the sort of the historical facts. That he took a particular law and then gave examples from history. So Bruce and I are going to have a quick chat around the first 13 sort of laws, and see what we can glean out of them. So I was going to sort of write a little bit on each one, but I felt it was slightly easier to nick a picture off the internet that summarized them all. So I suppose, overall, Bruce, what was your sort of, if you were to recommend this book to somebody else, what would be, how would you summarize it?
Yeah. Not sure how to summarize it really. So obviously a lot of laws there. A lot of them from, as you say, some sort of historic stories, covering all sorts of different elements of character, and perhaps for me the book, not the best fit with the sort of values and culture we're trying to foster at IT Dev. But it's perhaps, well, it's interesting you were saying that it is quite well read by prisoners, and I think when I was sort of listening to the book, I was thinking, if you were perhaps a gangster, or it might be quite a really informative read for you. I think even today, you look at what's going on in the world, you look at some world leaders, and you look at even closer to home, we look at some leaders we've had, and you, as the public, you're thinking, oh my God, what are they doing? And but actually, some of these people, they've managed to progress in their careers, they managed to do things. Whether I agree with the approach they've taken to get there, that's a different matter. But so the book talks about all sorts of ways that will help you progress. I don't really agree with the values behind a lot of these, but one of the things is just being able to identify what people do, and actually that can be a defense for yourself. So if somebody is being not sure what the word is, but sort of being a little bit deceitful or a little bit sly in their approach.
Manipulative in their web page, and I think
it's
that's
something manipulative. If you the book is really giving you an armory in which you could actually use it in your defense. If you know, if you're a bit suspicious about somebody and you're not perhaps trusting of them, and they're exhibiting certain traits, actually the book quite helpful in that respect. You can, you might better see what they're really doing rather than being fooled by the front that they're putting on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that would be my summary.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a big book, a lot of content, a lot of stories. Yeah,
There,
sure.
there are a lot of stories. I mean, it's one topic and then about 20 stories around it. Some are fascinating, sort of
Yeah.
back into the French Revolution and the Sun King back then, Chinese warfare. I mean, some of these bits came from Sun Tzu, which was a book club that we did a few months ago. So yeah, and you're right, you look at what's happening in the East, in sort of China with Putin. You can imagine, even if you can't see it, you can imagine a lot of this is going on. And I think where I resonated with a few things was when we were building really big companies, 400 plus employees. I can resonate to a lot of these things that were going on with staff. Now, whether they were doing it consciously, most of it, I think they wouldn't have read the book and it was just their subconscious way of getting on. But you could certainly see a lot of these traits in those people. And by being a boss, and being a business leader, to actually be able to reflect on what your team are doing and spot these signs, because some of them, you sort of go back to your culture that just don't really build a great culture in your organization. So you need to be able to stamp them out. But there are some, I think, that are done in the right way are actually positive. That actually you want to see that drive in people who want to get on and better themselves. So, I mean, rather than go through one by one, was there any in the sort of the first part that you did read and go, yeah, I resonate with that one. I can see that one as being a positive. I hope you can see the screen there. So.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I think there's one. I can't see where the title is now, but it's basically, surround yourself by the sort of people you want to be working with. So I'm not sure which heading that
There was one
was
that
under.
was stay away from losers.
Okay, so it'd probably be
So
the
I think
opposite
it
of that
was
then. So
the
it
opposite
wouldn't
of
be
that was, yeah.
yeah, it's the same topic. Yeah, I think that was the one that jumped out as me as for me, being a positive thing and something that I'd encourage and think is a good thing to do. So I think it's when you're networking, when you're trying to build your network, build contacts, trying to your wider network in terms of suppliers and clients. So just always be thinking about trying to work with and talk to people that you really get on well with, and you perhaps look up to, or you can see they're good people.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good lesson. I think that was the one
Yeah.
that jumped out to me. Is I was sort of listening through, and a lot of these thinking, oh no, I don't like that. Oh, I don't like that. But
Yeah, that one did keep away, because there are, I mean, within Action we talk about the sort of below the line people, and the mood hoovers, the blame, excuses, denial people, and associate with those that take ownership, accountability, responsibility, and that's really that. It's let's stay with the people that are going somewhere. Surround yourself with positive people. Keep away from the negative side of it, because in big, in any organization, the bigger it gets, the more those pockets of people will be there, because they make up a reasonably high percentage of the population.
and I think I very much have a belief in terms of building a company. It's all about trying to find people that me stronger than me, who can do things that I can't do. So I'm looking to try and find the best people, and So yeah, and perhaps perhaps that ethos doesn't really come across in the book because the book is more about you being the power or the force,
Yeah.
um, but certainly, yeah, uh, working with people that are good, yeah, yeah, I think that would be a good,
Yeah.
that's a good
And
thing.
that to me reinforces the fact that why company values are so important. Because if the moral compass is right, then you can use these for good. You can use these in a positive way. If the moral compass is
Mm,
wrong, then that's when you'll end up in dark, dangerous places.
mm.
So what was your take of the first one, Never Outshine the Master? Because obviously that's the film that I think is coming out of this, and
All right.
it sort of leads with
Yeah.
quite an interesting one to start. What was your
Oh,
takeaway from that?
yeah, I think it is a bit of common sense in a way. Yeah, I think if you're working for someone, then it's you don't want to I think a lot of people would just naturally you know have exhibit behavior where they're not looking to outshine their master. I think that is quite commonly done. It's if you're working for someone, you probably thinking, well, I'm looking to build a relationship, and a relationship involves you make adaptations, don't you? And if you're wanting to do well, then
Mm.
you're not wanting your boss to be made to look bad. So that feels like a lot of people would do that naturally. I would have thought that was my take on it. Um, uh, yeah. What did you have any?
Yeah, I do think that there's that natural but I do find sometimes people are so over exuberant to impress. I
Mm,
did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. I'm brilliant, I'm brilliant, I'm brilliant.
mm,
And by shouting out how great you are,
mm,
and always trying to impress, you sort of devalue yourself.
mm,
And I think that I love the story there that in that sort of 13th century France, where one of the guys built this great big palace and invited everyone to it, and it was a great party. And then I think the king had him beheaded. It was
oh,
like,
right.
yeah, you don't outshine me, mate. It's like I will know this, and I'll come round and get you.
Mm,
So this sort of to me that's that sort of understated success. That's
yeah,
that's that's what I think that's a virtue is modesty.
yeah,
Maintaining you're being humble, being
mm,
successful, not sort of doing it where you can't, but
mm,
not doing it to sort of me. Look at me, I'm brilliant, I'm brilliant, I'm brilliant.
yeah, yeah. It's something I very much agree with, really. And you know, people over time, people get to know you. They get to know what you're really doing and what you know uh, what your output is, if you like. And um, yeah, you don't need to be shouting about it all the time because I think people, I guess, being cynical about it, often, if people are shouting about it, you're thinking, well, they're having to say that because actually they're not so good, so they're having to shout about it to make themselves look better.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the cynical approach. But I suppose everyone's different. It's different personalities, but I guess for me, it's you see how people do over a period of time, and um, you get to build trust, and so that's um, sort of how I operate.
yeah.
Yeah. Um,
So, and what about the second one? Because that's was quite an interesting one that you could read it one way, and when I first read it, I thought, oh yeah, but that's it's not great, is it? If you can't trust your friends,
yeah.
then
Um,
when I went into a bit more detail and looked back in the past, and certainly where I've worked with family business and friends have come into business together and become business
mm,
partners. Often that does end in disaster.
Yeah,
because there's
yeah.
an over trusting that just because they're
Mm,
my friend, just because they're my brother, my sister, my aunt, my uncle,
mm,
means I should just blindly trust them. And that goes wrong. And also on the enemy's side, certainly in business, there aren't any true enemies. Everyone's trying to get to where they want to be,
mm,
and we can have what we call co-opetition, that we can
mm,
be in the same market competing against each other, but we can actually work
mm,
together because the market is actually far bigger than any one of us.
mm.
So did you get any sort of insights into that one?
Um, well, I agree with what you said there. And I guess it gets you thinking, doesn't it? I certainly think I've had meetings with potentially what you call competitors of the company, and I've been very surprised at how open those business owners have
Yeah.
been, and actually they wanted to share useful tips, and actually working together in that way is helpful for everyone.
Mm.
It makes everyone better. And so I've seen that. Um, I think there is a natural sort of desire to help your friends, work with friends, and I think over time, if you've done that, you do recognize actually if you're in a business, there's jobs to be done. Actually, you need to employ people and the skills and the aptitude, and and just because they're a friend, you might feel that they should be able to step up to that, but actually you're not really assessing them on the skills and
Yeah.
aptitude. You're just trying to do them a favor, and you're
Yeah.
thinking, oh, because they're a friend. But yeah, I think that can often go wrong.
Yeah,
So
and just because they're a friend, they'll work twice as hard as anybody else, and they'll never let me down. And we've
yeah.
known each other since we were 4 years old, and
Mm,
no, yeah, everyone has their own. Yeah, everyone in a way is selfish. They are looking after themselves. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they won't help people, but they will help people as long as they benefit from helping people. And some people just enjoy helping other people at the expense of themselves.
mm,
So it's never taking it on face value, and understanding and looking for those signs. And I think it's just that sort of blind trust. Never blindly
yeah,
trust
yeah.
anyone. Have a I think when you're in certainly in business, you've always got to be questioning. I do trust you, but you know I've still got to keep a little eye on it and make sure I don't
Mm,
just become blind to the fact that we've known each other as long as we have.
mm, mm. Yeah.
Um, any others that there's a couple that did for me, but any others that sort of resonated, or any that you thought, no way, that is just so wrong.
uh, I don't know. I think quite a few of the ones I was thinking, oh my God, no, that's not that doesn't sound great.
Which
So I
which
think,
one which one sort
uh,
of, I mean, can you,
oh
if you look at those, was it um
well, so just let others work and take the credit.
yeah,
That really
yeah.
doesn't sound good, does it?
When you read that, you think,
Um,
yeah, that manipulative, let others do the work and take the credit.
but
Um,
yeah, just surely from my perspective, that's just not going to work over a long-term basis. Yeah, you can see that that would work in the short term. So if you're, somebody who, you want to move quickly in a company and then perhaps, jump ship, move somewhere else. Yeah, there's perhaps a way you could do that. But
yeah,
yeah, for me, building a business, it's all about building a team. Yeah, having a motivated team, a team that can progress. But yeah, if you're going to get everyone else to take work and you take the credit, not giving them the credit, then you're just going to have high staff turnover. You're going to have low morale. Um, and then when you start, when you communicate to your team, they're not going to believe what you're saying because, you know, uh, so yeah, I think a lot of negatives around that from
yeah.
my perspective.
I when I first read it, I thought, oh yeah, that's just that is the manipulative one, isn't it? But then I sort of read, if I read the sort of summary of the chapter. So you use the wisdom, knowledge, and legwork of other people to further your own cause. Yeah, use the wisdom, knowledge, and legwork of other people to further your own cause. That's what a business is.
Yeah, well, I think in terms of the business, then it's not your cause. I suppose it's the business's cause. Yeah, and I think it's very good. Yeah, I'm on a journey, and my the early days of the journey involved me doing everything, and then as time's gone by, I've built a team, and the team take on more and more of the work.
Yeah,
I delegate more of the work, and and then as you grow, you learn not to micromanage people, and that sort of thing. So I guess in terms of the topic, you know, um, I obviously want people to take on big chunks of the functions of the company, and to ideally run quite autonomously. And I if I'm running that business, I can perhaps take credit for um, sort of trying to glue things together, and take credit for the overall performance of the business. But you need to recognize and reward the individual's contributions.
yeah,
And I think that's very important. But so
yeah.
I think some of these, as you say, some of these lessons you read through it and you think, oh my God, what's going on here? I don't.
I
But
think
then
a good,
you can
yeah,
take something from it. You think, oh, actually, there's some element, or it sparks a thought that you think, well, that thought is a positive one. So
yeah,
yeah,
because
probably.
you could. The negative is, look, use people, manipulate them. You're the superstar. They just get churned out and thrown away.
Mm,
But that's not what it actually says. Not only will such assistance save you valuable time and energy, okay, it will give you a godlike aura of efficiency and speed. When you look at Richard Branson and go, well, you're really successful, we give him that godlike aura of efficiency and speed, but it's not him doing the work.
mm,
He's got his team of people doing the work for him, and they're all enjoying their work. He treats them
yeah.
really well. So there's we're that's the beauty of this book. I found was, you can sit there and you can look at it from a negative point of view, but actually this is just human nature.
Mm,
And there are some lessons here that, in a business, stop doing the blooming work yourself.
mm,
Employ better people than you, employ them, but look after them, treat them
mm,
well, help them to get on, that's because then they will stay. If you treat them badly, they'll go, and then you'll just be left back doing it all yourself. But too many people in business, they want to be the most intelligent. They want to be the person that's doing the most work.
mm,
And that's goes against this. That if you want power, you've got to entrust your team to get on and do it.
mm.
So I'm glad you picked that one up, because on face value, it's oh my God. But then when you do look at
Yeah.
it, then you go, oh, actually, I can see. And it's almost like part of me wants to rewrite this book in a positive way, and
Yes. Yeah.
actually say, right, each one of
Mm,
these is true, but in a
yeah.
morally acceptable way. So I probably wouldn't
Yeah.
sell 1.2 million books, but
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. You may not have so many prisoners reading the book.
uh, um, so what was there another one of those that we can sort of dig into that looked I thought that always say less than necessary one was more of a positive one for me. Again, it goes back to
Mm,
the people that just bloody don't stop talking. And
mm.
um
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think I'm quite a very quiet person, and
hmm,
I don't I don't usually speak unless I feel I've got something to say, and sometimes that means the people around me probably thinking, I wish Bruce would say a bit more. But then I'm sort of thinking, well, if I don't, I'm hesitant. If I don't feel I've got something good to say, then I find it very difficult to speak, sort of thing.
Yeah,
So perhaps I'm not so good at just articulating my thoughts, and happy to perhaps spurt out a load of garbage in terms of the brainstorming side. But yeah, it's interesting.
I did like it because the thing that came to my mind was, do you remember? Was it the 90s, 80s, 90s with Eric Cantona?
Yes, yeah.
And he was sort of, because he was obviously, it was the height of his career, and then he came up with this quote of never follow the flock of seagulls, or it was just this sort of bizarre seagulls quote.
Right,
And
yeah.
everyone was just going, what does he mean by that? Oh, that's profound. It's, and everyone
Yeah.
was talking about it, and he was,
Mm.
oh, it's amazing. And he just came up with it, and it says here, even if you're saying something banal, it will seem original if you make it vague, open-ended, and sphinx-like.
Oh, okay. Mm.
So maybe that's something you add in, Bruce, rather than being completely silent. You just sort of
Yes.
say, yeah, there's a squirrel on a sunny Tuesday might like that.
Mm.
What the hell has he said? He must be meaning something, and then they'll go and find some meaning into it.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
but he does say, yeah, the more you say, the more likely you're to say something foolish. If you keep talking, you end up digging yourself into a hole.
Mm.
And the
Yeah.
big thing certainly in leadership is that, two ears, one mouth. You're there to listen, to understand, and then talk from your position of experience and knowledge.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then number law 6 almost sort of goes in opposite of that. Sort it's the his reputation. Oh, they're in slightly different order on this, I think. So, but law 6, it says court attention at all cost.
Mm.
So on one hand, say less than's necessary. On the other hand, everything is judged by appearance, and what is unseen accounts for nothing. Never let yourself get lost in the crowd. Stand out, be conspicuous at all times. So one hand, shut up, don't say it. On the other hand, be there and stand out.
Yeah.
So what if in a business context on that, what would your biggest sort of takeaway be for that one?
Well, yeah, I do agree with it to a certain extent. You don't want to be hidden away. That your team need to see you.
Yeah,
You need to have a presence within the company. So that I think that's very, very important. Um, um, but yeah, I wouldn't go over the top on it. But yeah, clearly, if you're hidden away in the corner of a room somewhere and nobody ever sees you and you never say anything, that's
yeah,
clearly not good.
yeah,
I think, uh, yeah, you do have to have a presence, and people need to know you. You need to, um, um, I think. Well, for me, I try to have a good relationship with everyone in the company. Um, get to talk to everyone on a quite a regular basis, and when I'm in the office most days, I'll often walk around, see how everyone's getting on. So I'm very visible.
yeah.
Whereas perhaps some of the team are less visible themselves. So it's me going over to them rather than come over to me, which
Mm.
would be expected. But
Yeah, because they don't want to outshine the master, Bruce. That's what it is.
yeah.
I just looked at that and thought, right, you've got to start coming to work with a hat with a big flouncy feather in it. That's the way to court attention. But make sure your boss isn't wearing the same hat and your feather is smaller than his feather. But I think from that there are there's probably combinations of these that sort of they do juxtapose, but bringing them together. So don't outshine the master, but court attention at all costs. So you've got to be visible, but don't be too visible. And it's sort of like a lot of things. It's this sort of fine balance and being aware, because if you're not thinking about it, then you just do it, and that's when you get yourself into trouble. Things start to go wrong. You overdo in one particular area. So
I think if you're a junior team member and you're on that sort of learning journey, if you're very vocal and opinionated and trying to be center of attention, you're probably not going to be very popular. So
I don't know if you got that far, but there was one I've just read, which I thought was quite interesting, because it was the surrender to recover.
I didn't get that far, but
you're not quite that far. So
happy to talk about it, though.
Because it's, that's the beauty. You could actually, to be honest, you could actually read the first 5 pages, and it gives you a summary of every single law, which gives you all the information you need. The book then goes into a bit more depth and examples of it. So so if I read, where was the surrender? I think that was so use the surrender. So law 22, use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power. When you are weak and never fight for honor's sake, choose surrender instead. Surrender gives you time to recover, time to torment and irritate your conqueror, time to wait for his power to wane. Do not give him satisfaction of fighting and defeating you. Surrender first. By turning the other cheek, you infuriate and unsettle him. Make surrender a tool of power. So the first thing jumped to me was the Ukraine situation. Was when he sort of Russia first invaded, my sort of first thought was just let them in. You're never gonna beat them. They're 100 times the size. So let them in, and then but when they're in, then irritate the hell out of them. If everyone left the country and said, well, there you go, it's like, well, there's no one there to conquer. So, but if you are going to fight them, then you need the backing of a bigger pool of weapons to actually do that, which is obviously what they've chosen. But taking that into a business situation, what would be your take around that within let's say business to business? So we're perhaps there's a competition, or we sort of feel like we're not winning in a particular area.
I can see in that situation, there's probably no point trying to just keep having continuous losing battles. Just step back and consolidate and prepare yourself for the next big thing that you want to work on. Perhaps but sometimes just stepping back, you give yourself the opportunity just to sort of reassess everything. I think it's true about all sorts of things in life, really. If things are not going well, then you can get stuck in a loop where you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. But if you just force yourself, like, let's stop, let's walk away, let's reassess, you can then build something much stronger, and then you've broken out of the loop, you start again, and you ultimately get to a stronger place. So I think there's a lot of sense in that.
I put it to sort of the people that want to win an argument.
Right.
you're in there trying to win an argument, and I must win, I must win, I must win, I must win. Sometimes it's better just to go, fine, okay, you win.
Yeah.
No
Well,
point
yeah.
there's no point in arguing about this. It's irrelevant. I'll surrender to you on this one. You can feel like you've won, but almost like, well, I've decided not to play the game.
Yeah. Or you might just step back and then think, well, let's approach this in a different way. And
stab him in the back
so
later.
the book seems to add some sort of backstory, Kevin.
I've read the book and I'm already thinking like a mass murderer. It's
we have to be a bit careful our next coaching session.
but it's interesting because I was working with a client, or a relatively new client, and there was a business partner involved, and there was a lot of trust between this guy and the business partner, and he asked me to sort of check things out, and I did some research, and the business partner, from what I found out, was being very underhand,
Right.
and I said, look, you've got to be aware that this person is not. I didn't know if he was being underhand in this particular deal, but had been underhand in other deals, the way certain things had happened. And it was going back to that, don't trust friends. That I think, I'm not saying, don't trust him in this situation, but you've got to go in with it being untrusting. Don't assume that he's doing this for your favor. Assume that he's doing it for his favor, and see what just otherwise. I think, I was really fearful that he was going to get suckered into a deal that was going to bite him on the arse, just because he's I've known him for ages, and he's just had a bit unfortunate. No, it's all of his own making. So it's understanding this in business, and know that this is going on, and arm yourself. Be prepared. Question, but don't. If you take it too far, I said you'll be paranoid and you won't trust anybody. But certainly question. Okay, let me understand the drive behind this particular decision. If somebody does surrender quicker, so why have you surrendered? Okay, that's interesting. Because some people will back out of an argument. Certainly, if you're wanting to encourage discussion within your team, and people back out because you're the boss, you might not want that. You might want, actually, I want you to challenge me. I want you to sort of talk about it. Maybe I'm being a bit too overpowering, and I need to sort of just calm down and listen a bit more. But what you don't want is a lot of people that just back down and then use this to sort of scupper the deal down the line. Cool. So, should we do one more, Bruce?
Yeah, I could do another one. Yeah.
Which one? Is there one on there that you haven't read that stands out, or stick with the ones you read?
Play to people's fantasies sounds interesting.
Play to people's fantasies. I did look at that and think, that's an interesting one.
Should we have a look at that one?
Let's have a look at that one. So, play to people's fantasies. It's probably towards the end, isn't it?
Yeah, Law 32.
32. Play to people's fantasies. So, the truth is often avoided because it's ugly and unpleasant. Never appeal to truth and reality unless you are prepared for the anger that comes from disenchantment. Life is so harsh and distressing that people can manufacture romance and conjure up fantasy are like oases in the desert. Everyone flocks to them. There is great power in tapping into fantasies of the masses. There you go, Bruce. I'll leave that one for you to unpick. I think it's totally true at the moment. God, every time the news comes on, I just got to switch it off because it's like almost sort of opposite to this. It's everything is just negative and they're just depressing. It's like, blimey, no wonder the world's in bloody, going into a recession. Yeah, I think we talk ourselves into it. It's so never appeal to truth and reality unless you are prepared for the anger that comes from disenchantment. So talk to me about that in a business sense then, Bruce.
Yeah, trying to think. Obviously in business, you have good periods and not so good periods, and I suppose when things are not going so well, uh, it's thinking about team communications, and for us, we'd always be trying to highlight, we're quite a very open organization, but you got to be a bit careful, because if you don't want to be talking doom and gloom, because everyone's just going to get really demotivated and jump ship. So yeah we'd be talking about what we're going to do about it, and be very positive, and um, thinking about the future. I suppose it's sort of you got to have the vision for the business and communicating that, and you can explain, well, look, things are not going as we expected right now, but you don't want to dwell on the negatives. You're going to be highlighting the positives, and you try and get everyone on board with the plan that you have to take things forward. But I suppose play to people's fantasies.
I think you're bang on there, Bruce. I think it's people, it goes back to that formula for change: dissatisfaction times vision, plus first steps must overcome the resistance. So in times of trouble, let's say we are going through an inflationary period at the moment, costs are going up, there can feel a lot of negativity around. People want to be inspired. They want to have a vision of the future. They don't want to. That's why we have, reality TV. Why all these sort of TV shows are there, because people don't want to live in their own little crappy worlds. They want to be inspired by something bigger and better that we're moving towards. They might realize, well, we're not there yet, but that's where we're going to go. So as a business person, that's what we've got to create. You've got to create the big, hairy, audacious goal, the vision. It's crap now. Yeah, I appreciate it. We know why it's crap, but this is what we're actually going to move towards and deliver. And I think the key to that is, the more trouble we have, and I know when COVID hit, this was a big thing we were talking about back then, was over communicate. Keep communicating to your people that things will be better. We have a plan. We might not be in control of everything, but we are working towards a better future. Give people hope. That's the big thing, that people have got hope. They've got they will be motivated. And it does. I was just looking there. Law 27 says play on people's need to believe, to create a cult-like following. People have an overwhelming desire to believe in something. Become a focal point of such desire by offering the cause a new face to follow. Okay, keep your words vague but full of promise. Emphasize enthusiasm over rationality and clear thinking. Give new disciples rituals to perform. Ask them to make sacrifices on your behalf. In the absence of organized religion and grand causes, your new belief system will bring you untold power. I mean, okay, you can see how that is used in the religious cults that happen. That you create a tribe. people that act together stay together. So it's well known within that field that you can create that. Again, what we want to be able to do is use that within our businesses, but not the manipulation thing. Again, ask them to make sacrifices on your behalf. Then try and think of that in a positive way. It's not killing chickens. It's sometimes sacrifices. Look, guys, we're going to have to work later. We're going to have to put a bit more effort in here. We're going to have to all commit to the cause. But if there's no cause, then you can't ask people to commit.
Yes.
If they believe in the cause, they'll give up their weekends. They'll trade in holiday. They'll do what it takes if they believe in the future. If there's no future, then you ask them to work overtime. They go, nah, screw you. So look, I think we'll bring it to an end there. I mean, please, I think if you do, if you are looking at reading this book, I think you've got to read it with a pinch of salt. You've got to look for the good in this. If you want to use it for world domination, then fine, you can do that. But the more, and actually it's been really good talking to you, Bruce, about it, because it does reinforce in my head that there are snippets in here that go, actually, that does work, and you can make that work in a positive way. And even if those that you can't, then just be aware that these things might be happening to you. If you're not using them, then they might be being used against you. So it's been great having you on. And say, this is our sort of first one in the new format. So what we're going to be doing here is I'm going to ask everyone to select a book. If you don't know what book you want to read, then I'll choose one for you based on where you are. If you're not into reading, or you prefer podcasts or watching TED Talks, videos, then please, doesn't matter what it is, as long as there's something in there. And we're looking for that sort of commitment of 1 to 3 a quarter. So, if you take one a bit more time, then do 1 per quarter. If you can, get something done a month. The more you learn, the more you earn. It's it's a key part to your personal development. And then when we come together at the big dinners every quarter, the next big dinner, by the way, is going to be the 20th and 28th of October. So it was on the Monday email. So if you keep a lookout for that, and then we'll come together, we'll get your sort of top learnings from each book. Book recommendations is always good. And then we'll use that as our discussion point. We'll find something meaty in what we've talked about and go into a bit more detail. And then what I'll be doing is doing a little interview, 30 minutes to an hour with you about what you've got out of the book, which will help me as well. I'm doing this on a bit of a selfish point of view that, for me, I enjoy talking about books because it reinforces my learning, but it also means because we record it, we can share it and other people can glean from your knowledge, hopefully inspire them to read the book, or even if you've read it and thought it was rubbish, at least it's one we know to actually avoid. So thank you very much, Bruce. It's been great having you on the show, as it were. I could almost turn this into a little podcast. But any final words? Would you say this is a book that people must read, could read, should read, avoid? What would your final comment on the book be?
I think if you're an avid reader and you've got plenty of time on your hands, then read it. But otherwise, it's probably a bit of a thumbs down from myself.
Okay, there's probably more important books to read, I would say, than this one. But I think that's a good way of saying if you've read a lot of books and you want something a little bit left field, then and you've got an open mind, then it's probably one that's worth sort of getting your teeth into. So thank you very much, Bruce. Been a pleasure having you on the show. I suppose this is a show now. And have a super weekend and great bank holiday, and I'll see you soon. So,
okay, thank you, Kevin.
Bye for now, Bruce. Ta-da.
Bye.